Hello, test one, two, three, check. Is this good? Oh, okay. I'm about to test the other one. Hello, test. Ooh, that's a bit loud. Can we put that down a little
Talk
bit?
again? Wait, turn it down. Keep
Ready?
talking.
Hello, check. One, two, three, check. This one's still a bit louder than the other ones.
Yeah, one sec. Try again.
Hello, check. Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Okay, cool. We're good.
Yep.
Hello, testing. One, two, three, check, check. This one's a little bit loud. Check, check, check. One, two, three, check, check.
Talk a little louder.
Hello? Check. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this one's good now.
Okay.
I'd
Try
say
that
this is
once.
good. All right. Are we just going down the line again?
Yeah, might as well just do them down.
Okay.
Final check before they come in. One of them's just like extremely loud.
Hello? Check. 1, 2, 3. Check, check, check. That's
Yeah, that
pretty
one's
good.
fine. Try the others.
Hello? Check. 1, 2, 3. Check, check. 1, 2, 3.
That one's fine.
Yeah, this one's good.
And then just the stand one should be left.
Hello? Check. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Check.
I'm gonna raise that one a little bit.
You're going to raise it a little bit?
Yeah, just a tiny bit. I'm gonna turn up like 2 decibels.
Okay,
There,
yeah,
try
that,
again.
that should be good. Check.
Yeah, that's
1, 2,
better.
3. Check.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we just... No, we'll turn these on when
I
they
would
come
say
down.
I would. I don't know if we should leave them on or off.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I don't know how long it's going to be, but I don't know. Okay,
We'll
we
turn
can
it
just
on.
turn it on like 5 minutes
I'll say
before.
we'll turn it on 5 minutes before it starts. Easy. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Test, 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 test. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Test, 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 test.
Please come back. Okay. Joe, you ready? Okay. Good evening. My name is Jody McKay, and I am the current school board president here at FC. I'd like to introduce our board members and the administration here tonight. We have Mrs. Janine Miles, who's our vice president, Mr. Eugene Briggs, our treasurer, Mrs. Tina Cottrell, Mrs. Melinda Errett, Mrs. Dawn Friori, Mrs. Cindy Gaskill, Mr. Louis Ursit, and Mrs. Loretta Kendall, who was not able to attend tonight. Also, we have our superintendent, Dr. Jill Jacoby, our business manager, Jessica Driley, and our building principals at the high school, Dr. Trish Craig. Where's Trish at? Out there by the door. And the elementary center principal, Mr. Robert Mott. We've scheduled the town hall meetings as well as a meeting on Wednesday, October 10th at 7 to provide an overview of our district's capital projects planning, including the incorporation of air ventilation upgrade. As a board and administration, we believe it is important for residents, taxpayers, parents, and students to understand the status of our district's finances and long-range plans. In addition, we believe it is important to provide a forum to gain insight from our community about our upcoming decision-making process. Dr. Jacoby and Mrs. Driley will be giving a presentation on our district's finances, capital projects timeline, air ventilation options, and potential bond needs. As a reminder, tonight's town hall is only regarding our district's capital projects related to air ventilation. I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Jacoby and Mrs. Driley to start the presentation.
Good evening. I'm Jessica Driley. I'm the business manager for the district. We're going to do a rundown of the district finances, prior completed capital projects that we have done, proposed future capital projects,
presentation for the next 3 years. We'll go through what the board is talking about for ventilation, and then finally I'll tell you the program changes that we have already addressed, some program changes that are going to come into effect, and also where our personnel changes are. You're right, this is clicky. Here. I'm going to do this over here so it's easier. It's okay. Okay, so let's start with capital projects. So what have we completed since 2014? The first thing we did was the hot water boiler system. We were having problems with heating the buildings and having it be consistent. So we have increased the opportunities by putting in an entirely new boiler system, and that is hot water which feeds both of the buildings. It's housed in the high school, but it goes underground to the elementary center and feeds into that system. So we replaced all of the operationals of the boilers. The second thing was an upgrade to our water lines. If you drive down the hill, you'll see off to the right, as you're going down, there is a little brick building. That's actually a watershed where our water pump system was. Prior to city water coming through, the district was pressurized water that came up the hill, went to the watershed, and then would be pumped across the high school stadium and go up into the water tower. Both schools were fed by that water tower. We have since integrated a non-water tower compliance water system, which means now we go directly from the city water, and we no longer use the water tower. At some point in time, that is going to have to be taken down, but again, that's extremely costly, and we've looked into other options of having it taken out and the metal sold, and because it is lead paint, that is extremely costly to, number one, take down, and it is unusable once it is down. So that'll be a project that's 7 years out, and the range was about $50,000 to take it down. Lastly was the replacement of the high school and elementary roofs, and those were both replaced. If you went to school here, you can remember 10, 15 years ago, we had water buckets everywhere. It's because at that time, the roofs were made with rocks, and they had tar on them, and what would happen is the trees would overlay on the roofs. They would have the ants crawl up the trees onto the roof, and then the birds would eat the ants, and that's what was putting holes into the roofs. So we had those totally replaced with high-efficiency roofs. You can see some of the pictures, and these are part of our 3-year improvement plan. The red covering on the front of the schools. We have many issues with just usage of our parking and roadway systems, and we have some cafeteria issues with our ovens. So here is what we're proposing for the 2019 summer. That would be replacement of ovens in both schools. We're upgrading the lights. We did some this summer, which we did already receive our electrical rebate, and we also have high efficiency lights in the hallways of both buildings and both gymnasiums. And then we would be moving into phase 2 of that this summer. Next phase would be starting carpeting in the classrooms. If you go to any of these classrooms, this carpet has been here for over 30 years. Again, in our elementary center, a lot of the kids are on the floor, so we're concerned and would like to get those replaced. And then finally, having replacement at the high school with those areas that do need. We have replaced the carpeting in the library, former library that we call Learning Commons now, and a couple classrooms. So we'll do that in a phase in. The total cost of that is $135,000. The next proposal is for the following summer, which is 2020. Again, we're looking at repairing the canopies, and that's just not a nice looking feature. It is also that there are some crumbling aspects to the poles that we will need to have rebuilt, resoldered, and decide whether we're going to put concrete around them again. We want to replace both building PA systems. We're having trouble with the clock system to the high school, and that is all tied into our PA system, so we would be replacing that as well. Go into phase 3 of upgrading the lights and phase 2 of upgrading the carpets. So you see a total cost of about $557,000. And then lastly, in year 3, which would be phase 3 of a lot of these projects, we would again finish upgrading all the carpet in both buildings, and we would work on district parking lots and driveway. So when it comes to air ventilation, a lot of talk has been around our classrooms are warmer than normal. The seasons are changing. 30 years ago, people will say, I went to school here and it wasn't as hot as it is now. So the board has made a concerted effort at looking at what are the options available for air ventilation. Not just air conditioning itself, but what about just getting refiltered air back into the schools? So we have a 3-option plan for air ventilation. We had a couple engineering firms come out and give us estimates. We can do nothing and just keep repairing these ventilators that are in all of the classrooms. There are air ventilators. We call them UVs. We could repair and replace each of those ventilators, which will need to be at some point because these air ventilators are in year 20s, some 24 to 25, and their life expectancy is only up to 26 to 28 years. That would be $700,000. The third option is to replace the air ventilators with a new hydraulic system that would run cold and hot water through. Right now they only run hot. We would do cold and hot, and that would provide an air conditioning sensation in the classrooms along with heating in the winter. And you can see that then puts us at the highest functioning of a $3 million project. So as I tell the board, when we talk about budgeting, and Jessica does the same thing, you have to give to take. So we've had to work on balancing our budget. And items cut due to proposing air conditioning are these 8 items. These were items that were in our proposal for the next 3 years of capital project planning, and we said if we're going to do air ventilation, we're going to have to cut these things. So we're looking at waiting on the locker room renovation at the high school, some floor replacement for the offices. We're saying let's do the kids first, the adults can wait. District-owned van for our special ed program. That is one thing that is an unfunded mandate that we have to provide transportation for all of our special ed students at any location, wherever school they go to. So sometimes we have to outsource vans and not use our own. Our dump truck and salt truck needs replaced. The bread truck, which is also used for the band, has probably on its last leg. We've replaced the brakes several times, and we've redone the body of the van, so that's in a replacement aspect. Heating and lighting upgrades to the pole barn. Reason why we're having problems with our dump truck is because it cannot be rinsed properly and maintained because the building is so cold that if you rinse it off in the winter, it's going to freeze up and you're not going to be able to use it the next day. So that's why it is getting rusted faster than normal. And then repairs to our chimney. Since we had a new boiler system put in, the chimney is going to need to be downsized. It's too tall because of the way the boilers work now compared to the old coal and steam boilers. There's a lot of air convection that goes up, and so we need to work on the chimney. And then finally, replacement of the high school gym bleachers at some point. So those are the items that we cut out if we're going to include air conditioning. Let's talk about programming and personnel. In the last few years, we have done some cuts, and there's 4 main programs we've cut. That would be our alternative ed program, our home economics, our AR, and our tech lit. But things have changed. For all of us who were educated in the earlier to 2000, education has changed due to technology. So we have taken out some but replaced with others. So again, our additions were, we've increased our AP and CHS courses so that the viability of students going on to school. We've done restorative programming, which is what we call non-bullying. That's what you would hear as non-bullying, but in an educational sense, it's called restorative practices. We've added one-to-one technology at the high school, an innovation lab. We have done a life skills, full-time life skills program, which means we were able to bring kids back from outplacement and keep them here, which is a less costly education. We've created STEAM and maker spaces, and we've changed the elementary to an 8-day to provide more specials within the week. And with that comes personnel changes. Some of these are through attrition. Attrition means that as people retire, we just don't hire back. So we've eliminated 4 administrative positions within the last few years. We have eliminated a business office employee, guidance consultant. That guidance consultant was helped with social work. So we've tried other ways through grants to bring those programmings in. 2 IU aides, which are IU aides for special education. Again, another part-time social worker that we try to consult through grants. And then we've furloughed several professionals. And finally, we've eliminated professional positions, like I said, through retirements. Things that we've added to the budget in order to keep up with the costs. And as Jessica said, our contractual costs are superseding our ability to keep up with our revenue. And it's becoming very stagnant as far as revenue goes. So we've had to implement pay to participate fees for all of our athletics. We did a cross-analysis of the districts near us and what they did, and actually at this point in time, we have the lowest pay to participate fund rate of anyone in this area. And then we implemented parking pass, and again, Trinity was a school that really got high profile for that they implemented. Theirs is 200 and ours is 50. So I just want to educate you on school code does not mandate everything. And these are the items in the various areas that are not mandated by the school code that we do not have to fund and have available to the students, but we feel that it's important for our kids to be educated in a well-rounded environment, and that's why we keep them on. But if costs keep increasing and revenue keeps decreasing, this is the chart that we go to say what are we going to keep and what are we going to eliminate. And these are the things, again, that school code says we don't have to provide. So our total cost for 3-year plan is as follows. We're at about $1 million. We had originally said about a $2 million bond would be taken out. Again, the board was concerned about the conditions of the classrooms with air, and so we looked into the air conditioning. If we add that, we're at a $3 million. We will have to add another generator to that, which gives our proposed 3-year plan cost with air conditioning at $4.3 million. Jess, can you talk about the annual bonds? And just so we understand, annual bonds basically means a loan. A bond in a school system means a loan.
So currently, our bond payments are about $255,000 a year. That's about 1.42% of our budget. If we were going to add the original $2 million bond on that we originally talked about before air conditioning was discussed, it would add an additional $142,000 on to our current $255,000 bond payment a year. If we did the $4.5 million bond, that would include air conditioning. That would equate to about additional $178,000 a year that we would add. With air conditioning and a bond payment, we are looking at $433,000 annual payment, and that would go until school year 2048. That was when the term of the bond would expire. And that leaves us at 2.41% of our budget. Moderate debt burden is defined as 4.4%, so we're still below that moderate line, but $433,000 is the max that we would want to go to. And then here is our bond, our debt timeline. October is when the board is going to decide how we're going to, what we're going to do with our facility and our capital project plan. And then between October and December is when our underwriter and bond counsel would start taking out the bonds. And then if we're going to do air conditioning, we need to send out RFPs, which is a request for proposal in December, January of 2019. So then we can start those projects in the summer of 2019. And then for the 3 years, we would end that 3-year plan in August of 2021. That's it, Jody.
evening. My name is Tina Cottrell. We want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We've just given you a lot of information, and it's just a little bit of what we've been talking about for quite a long time. The reason that we invited you all here tonight to talk about the finances and the ventilation is that we think it's a really, really important decision, and we want to know what you have to say. We're your elected officials. We're here to speak for you. Sometimes we don't know how you feel about these big financial decisions that are going to impact everybody in the district. So we'd like to invite you at this point in time to take a few minutes to come up and ask some questions, give some comments. We're only taking comments on the air ventilation and the finances surrounding it. You do have 3 minutes that you're able to speak. As per our board policies, we would ask you to come up to the microphone, state your name, and state the district that you reside in. So do we have any hands? Anybody who'd like to ask a question, make a comment? Come on up.
So my name is Jessica Hickson. I live obviously in the Fort Cherry School District. I'm curious if you guys know, so how many days per year, let's say over the past couple years, would we have actually used air conditioning? Because I feel like this year was an anomaly. So like how many days last year were over 85 degrees or something like that?
Okay, Dr. Jacoby, do we have some idea as to that?
We always say the first 2 weeks of school and the last 2 weeks of school are definitely the warmest.
Sure.
But for instance, this year it ran more into September, and it looks like that, you know, the time frames of hot weather are getting more and more. The board did talk about moving our calendar and starting after Labor Day, but as you see, even like Butler and the other schools that don't have air conditioning, we all had to delay a couple days because of that. So it's really whatever the year, you know, persists for us.
So I guess my thought then is, because we've been in this district 8 years, and this is the only year I can remember in 8 years, which is a pretty recent history, having school actually be delayed. So I would ask that then, you know, maybe we put this off 1 year and calculate in those 2 weeks on either end, how many times has the temperature actually been that high? Because this feels like, I don't know how long you all have been talking about this, but it feels like a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to one hot year, but maybe it's not, so.
Yeah, so just to give you a little background, I've been on the school board for 7 years now, and we've been talking about it for years. It's just a big decision to make. I mean, you bring up a good point. Do we keep an eye on it a little longer? Maybe we do.
But do we know now? Like, have you guys actually done the research, is what I'm asking?
Yeah, we could get some information and put it up on the website. Could we do that? Yeah. We're going to answer as many questions as we can right now. Anything we can't, we'll do the research and we'll put it up. And we'll let you guys know what the answers are. But great comment. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, my name is Julie Vincenti. I live in Mount Pleasant Township at the bottom of the hill. The first question that was asked, that was my first question. How many actual days is it unbearable that the kids have to? And barring the research on that, my second question is, do we, as a school district, I have kids in this school, do we want to possibly lose a lot of those programs and teachers for our children for maybe a month of school, hot? And my last question is, are the taxes going to be raised for this $4 million bill that you're going to, loan that you're going to take out? Is that going to be is that going to affect taxpayers?
So our business manager is going to comment on the taxes.
So like the slide that I showed you about for the past 5 years that we have raised taxes, that equated to about 150 to 200,000 additional revenue dollars a year. Our contractual costs increase just that much. So if we do have an additional bond that we're taking out, I foresee in the future that we will be raising taxes to the index in the next several So the school index, every year in October, November, PDE, which is the Public Department of Education, they come out with the school index. And every school gets a certain index. And school districts cannot raise your taxes above that index. There are 3 exceptions to that index that the school districts have to apply for. And if they qualify, the state will come back and say, yes, you are allowed to raise your taxes a certain dollar amount, and they will tell us what that is. In the past, Fort Cherry has not gone over that index, and I don't see us in the future going over that index with adding a bond of this size.
So I have 2 questions. Can I do them both, or do I have to like tag back in? Okay. All right, so question 1. So we talked about,
Your name and the district that you reside in.
alrighty, so my name's Paige Alderson, graduate from Fort Cherry. I live in Pittsburgh, so.
So are you a resident of our district?
Yes, I actually still get mail at 10 Hidden Acre Lane, Hickory, PA, in Mount Pleasant Township.
All right, go ahead.
So my first question is, on the list, we talked about potentially cutting the nurses and guidance counselors. So the first question is about guidance counselors. If you're planning to cut school nurses and guidance counselors, are you going to train teachers to take on those responsibilities that you're actually cutting out? And if so, would you then not also need to factor in pay increases for the additional duties that they're taking on? The next question I have relates to school nurses. So if we're cutting a nurse from the elementary school, but you're keeping one at the high school, you're looking at having a nurse with over 800 students on a caseload if there's 400 and 400 between the 2 schools. So then aren't we also concerned about any liability that you have because they're not able to monitor every individual case, they're not able to communicate with teachers, they're not able to refer to different standards as well? So those are the 2 questions I have.
So PA school code says that any nurse can have a roster up to 1,500 students. So many schools our size only do have 1 nurse. Also, it's understandable too that not both of our nurses are school nurse certified. And that is per school code, you don't have to be either. You have to have 1 school certified nurse per a district of 1,500 students. So we have one that is a nurse certified school, and then we have another one who's an LPN, and that's how that works, is that you have different levels of nursing depending on the needs of your kids and the size of your district. That slide that we showed you, we were just saying those are potential cuts that school code. That is nothing that we are proposing at this time. The board did talk about all of those items that were on that chart and said at this time we feel that we still have the potential to keep all of those items and keep the bond going. So at this time, we are not proposing any of those cuts on there. But I wanted you to be knowledgeable so when you leave here, you know that PA school code doesn't require all these extra things that we're providing here at Fort Cherry that we're so fortunate to be able to do.
Thank you. Anybody else?
All right, Renee Folletto, I'm in McDonald. Have you guys done your research versus window air conditioners versus this whole ventilation? The placement, is it gonna go on the roof? Can the roof hold it? Or is it gonna go on the ground? When we're talking about the AC, and can we save any money? Because as a taxpayer, I feel it's important that we need to redo the locker rooms. This is the stuff that the kids are really gonna get use out of. There is asthma, there is a lot of issues, so put in a couple more window ACs. You can develop an IEP if need be for these kids that have asthma to put them in specialized classrooms during the hot days, if it's only a couple out of a year.
So we have been talking about it for a few years. Did you have something else you wanted?
Nope.
Okay. We've been talking about it for a few years. In the course of these, at the beginning, we kind of were tossing around ideas. In the past couple of years, we've gotten more serious information. In the past 6 months, 8 months, we've had one of our engineering firms come in and give us all sorts of scenarios. They've come to our board meetings. They've explained all different types of options. So that is something that we have talked about. We haven't landed on any one decision yet because, of course, we're still gathering information. So if we put in window air conditioners, what's the energy cost, right? Who maintains those? What temperature do you keep them at? We've talked about, is there something else we need to upgrade in the building in order to put condensers on the roof? So these are things that we have talked about at length. We haven't made any final decisions yet. This is part of the process. We want to know what you all have to say, or are we wasting our time if the taxpayers don't support this decision? So we are.
Know where the placement is as far as that can.
It's still all being discussed.
And where is the air conditioner going? Because it's not going to come in the auditorium, correct? It's not going to go in the gymnasium. It's not going to go in the wrestling room. All places that are used and used by outsourced parties where we also pay to rent these spaces that are not air conditioning. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the current scope that we're discussing, again, it's important to remember there haven't been any decisions made. Does not include auditorium, gym, does not include the wrestling room, and the cafeteria. It also doesn't address any rooms that are currently air conditioned, correct? We have several interior rooms that had to be air conditioned when the building was built. It doesn't have any effect on those rooms either.
This will go for both buildings.
Yes, both buildings.
Yeah, and just to follow up, the chillers for those, for the one type that they are looking at would be outside. It's an outside chiller unit, and they come through the UVs in every classroom.
All right, I don't want to make a big screeching noise here, so we'll stay here. My name is Jordan Alderson. I graduated in 2005, so it's been a long time. Right now I live in Gans, PA, but my permanent address is in Hickory. So I think it's important to know that you guys are our elected officials, and I think it's a shame that there is a public outcry going on at this time that is not being addressed during a public forum. Being a teacher, I understand that there are a lot of different elements. There's different factors. There's admin, there's school board, there are teachers, but when you have somebody that is as important, and when a narrative is being framed like it is now, where you cannot discuss something at a public forum, it's a shame that needs to be addressed. And eventually it will be, because a lot of people are upset about it. So that's my comment for today.
Anybody else?
I just want to say that I fully support Jordan Alderson. I think we all know what he's talking about here, and thank you for your time.
Okay, so we appreciate everybody that's come out tonight. This meeting has been scheduled for quite a long time, and it is to discuss, give me just one sec, It is to discuss an important topic on air ventilation. We do have other opportunities for public comment. One of those is our next school board meeting on October 22nd at 7 o'clock. It's the same type of forum. You're permitted to come in. You have 3 minutes. You can make a comment and a discussion on anything that you like. Because this was a scheduled agenda, we do have a very important topic to discuss here as well, and we'd like to keep it on task. So we're going to say only comments regarding the finances and the air ventilation will be taken this evening. So any other comments or questions about? Oh, I'm sorry, this gentleman was next, and then I'll get you.
Me?
Yes, sir.
Am I next?
Yes, sir.
Is that board meeting going to be here?
The board meeting, where are we going to have it? In the Learning Commons, the library.
Hi, guys. My name is Ron Diaz. I live in Mount Pleasant. I want to commend you guys for a fantastic, what I consider a 3-year plan. It was well thought out. You have costs for everything. And I think it's overdue to get the school air conditioned, because last November it was in 70s, well into November, because I used to walk every night. And I know it's 70 outside, it's 80 inside this building, because I've been here just here last week, open house. It's hot at night. These kids are basically sweating all day long. It's crazy. It's 2018. If we can do it for $4.3 million, bond rates are going to only increase. The Feds increased the bond rate on Wednesday. They're going to do it again in December and 4 times next year. You can't borrow money for any cheaper than you're going to get it right now. So thank you. I hope it goes through.
Thank you.
My name's Cooper D'Amigo. I am in 8th grade. I live in McDonald. About the air conditioning, is it possible to only put air conditioning in some of the rooms? Because I know like Miss Ryan's room is terrible. It's hotter in her room than it is in the hallway. And I think it would be smart to like only maybe put some in those rooms. Also, what about like doing fundraisers to do it? I had the idea of doing like a car show type thing at the beginning of spring next year, and if we have to keep taxes low, do like a car cruise where it meets like every 2 weeks or once a week or something, have like food trucks and make it family friendly and everything. But I was wondering if that would be a possibility, like to lower the costs of everything.
Those are great questions. Thanks so much. I'm going to let one more. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming out. Can one of you speak about fundraisers for the school?
Yeah, we always are happy to do fundraisers, right? And we like to gain money from alternative avenues. However, there is state laws on fundraising, and this is another item that some people don't know about. Booster clubs are not part of the district, so they are under a totally different legislative body than we are. So booster clubs can do their own fundraisers, but the district has certain obligations that they have to keep under control as far as the school code goes, and those then have to be parceled out by every activity. So when we fundraise, it's always a grand idea that we're going to raise this much money, but it comes down to we can only have so many throughout the year. So we will have to look at that. But again, I think going back to what we showed, at this point in time, I think we're able, if the board is interested, to go forward with some air conditioning idea, whatever that option may be. And again, as Jessica had already claimed, taxes are going to be raised even if we don't add the air conditioning, because our contractual costs keep going up due to our 4 main items, and that is special ed, cyber schools, healthcare, and teacher retirement.
Hi, my name is Isabel Deskutner. I live in Hickory, and I graduated in 2015. I just wanted to ask why this year specifically, after years of it working fine and having no problems, is there a specific and valid reason why the AC and ventilation needs to be changed this year, or is it just because we have a problem with it suddenly?
Thanks for your question. We've been talking about it for years. We don't know if it is this year. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. That's why we've asked you all to come. So I don't think it's happened suddenly. Like I mentioned earlier, I personally have been on the board for 7 years, and we've been talking about it the whole time. And actually, before I was elected onto the board, I used to come up to board meetings and they were talking about it then. So I think it's been a long time. I think it's just that we thought it was time to invite you all up and see what you had to say.
Hello, my name is Heath Clutter. I'm from Hickory. Do the chimney modifications, I saw that it was on the cut list. Do they need to be or does the chimney need to be modified to get the full functionality from the boiler system that's been implemented? Or is that not really a big deal toward its functionality?
It's not for its functionality. It's
Okay.
for eventually the process, the way the boilers work and condensation is going to diminish the chimney at the height it's at.
so it needs to be cut in about half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a long-term problem?
It's a
though, not
long-term,
short?
yep.
Gotcha.
And those were items that we actually have proposed to the board a 7-year plan. We have focused on a 3-year plan just because we're doing short-term versus long-term.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Danielle Burfield. I live in McDonald. I have a daughter in 1st grade, and she comes home a sweaty mess, sweltering. I fully support the idea for moving towards air conditioning, and I just want to thank you for your research and your consideration for this project.
Thank you.
I just wanted to comment, folks, that a lot of this came to a head because the facilities are really needing a lot of repairs. And heating and air, basically, in the next few years, are going to need at least close to $1 million just to restore what we have now. So the thought becomes part of this 3.2, you know, you have to really reduce it by the money we're going to have to spend anyways. So why not at this time when we have to spend that much money to put things back the way it was, let's spend a little more and improve it. And when they looked at traditional air conditioning, we were looking over $6 million. So if that helps the bite a little bit, going from $6 million down to $3 million, and then if you take what we're going to have to spend anyways, you understand there's more of a residual that we're going to spend versus just spending $6 million. So I hope that helps.
Anybody else? We'll let you have the rest of your 3 minutes.
I was just wondering, is the locker room renovations like for the money, is it really like needed to be done? Because I have gym this semester and I thought it was fine. I mean, it looks old, but it is the locker room. It just stores your clothes. So is it really that big of a deal to do?
There are some concerns with the locker room, and that's why it's on the long-range plan, because we do have to turn the showers on manually because they leak in the back of the wall. So we do have to maintain that by there are some just crumbling facility problems. But on the short range, you're right. We're only using them for a shorter period of time. So, you know, what do we want? It's the cost versus the effect.
Hi, my name is Anita Steigerwald. I just want to say I fully support this project. I hope it goes through. My nephew is a teacher in Mount Lebanon School District. They just recently put in a cooling system. Their classrooms were 97 degrees in the day. They've had pediatricians talk about this, and I think a pediatrician stood before this board maybe 10 years ago. He considered it child abuse to have children in rooms that hot. I have to agree, that's very, very hot. I don't know what the temperatures are in these classrooms, but I was here for open house in the elementary school. It was stifling. And I think a 6-year-old is sitting through that all day long. So I fully support this project and I hope it goes through. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Jacoby, on one of the days that we let out early because of the heat, I think you went and checked the temperature in some of the classrooms, right? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, it depends on the side of the building that you're in because of the way the sun hits. They were anywhere from 84. The highest that I saw the one day was 93. I've been here many years. I was in elementary for 14 years, and many times we would take the kids out of the classroom and put them in open air environments because it was warm. So, and I think the question back to why now, we have really been strategic in our planning of fixing what has to be. What are the 3 things you have to have is heat, water, and then a building roof over you. So we've done those things, so we're now at that next step of what else can we add to the buildings. And as you had said, Mount Lebanon, that the engineers who did Mount Lebanon are the ones that came to evaluate us and gave us that pricing, and they have the same unit ventilators that we do. So it would be the same system Mount Lebanon put in.
Anybody else? Okay, no, oh. Follow-up question?
I just want to say that I really appreciate you guys taking the time to answer questions. I think it's a shame in a public forum we can't ask any questions of our elected officials, and that really disappoints me. I'm really disappointed in my alma mater today. I hope you really think about that you want to take care of the people in this school. You want to take care of the future of the people in these schools. And I think ventilation is a good idea. I think it is, I mean, like we said, it's child abuse to have them in hot weather. I think there's more about looking after people than just the temperature. And I think we need to look after the future graduates of this school. And I think you know what I'm talking about.
Any other questions or comments? We do have another town hall meeting coming up October 10th, correct? At 7 o'clock. That one is specifically about air ventilation as well. We do have our regularly scheduled board meeting on October 22nd at 7 o'clock up here in the old library, now called the Learning Commons. I believe when everyone came in, you were handed out a comment card. If you have a comment that you want to make or a question that you'd like to submit, feel free to fill them out. Just come up, leave them on the table. The questions will be posted on the website within 72 hours with as many answers as we can gather regarding air ventilation in the next 72 hours. We want to thank everybody for coming out. We really appreciate, we know you're all busy, and we appreciate that you took the time to come out and share your thoughts with us.
Thank you. We appreciate it. If there's any other questions, whether it be relative to air conditioning or anything else in the school, please feel free to call me. My email is on the website, and I'm more than happy to take any of those comments. As always, we try to educate your kids, and safety is our #1 priority. Thanks. Have a good night.